program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I am your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is singer and songwriter Howard Gripp. Howard, welcome to the show.
Bubba, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a busy day. I can't even remember how many interviews I've done and a live review show, and we're just on all the time here, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Well, that's good. That's fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'd like to, before we get into all the things that you're doing now, I'm sure you're staying plenty busy in that studio. I'd like to give you a few minutes off the top here to give us a little bit of your backstory, and we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah. Well, I've been a musician my whole life. I'm in my later years of life, I guess. I'm a longtime rock and roll guy. I started playing drums when I was 6. I played rock music until probably 3 years ago. Way back in the 90s, I had a CD and a small record contract and went on the road for a little while. And that kind of ran its course, and I turned like 35 and said, all right, I can't do this anymore. I'm too old to be a rock star. But so I quit playing for like 5 years, and then I got the itch again. You know, musicians, we just got it in our bones. So I started playing again and started playing clubs again on bars, and started doing an acoustic duo thing when I couldn't find a band. And about 3 years ago, I just kind of felt God telling me to do something different with my music. So I put the secular rock and roll music away and stopped playing the bars, and I've been playing Christian music ever since. So that's a quick one.
Yeah, that's incredible too. I know how it feels, right? I'm 39 myself, and I know that I'm too damn old to be a rock star. And, I don't, your body tells you you're just not built for it. And I quit drinking at shows and really partying a long time ago, but even just, performing 4 hours a night and trying to wake up and to do that 5-6 nights a week, it's tough to do. It's definitely a young man and woman's game. But I love that you've made the turn now to making music for God and making that the whole source of your musical career. Were you a member of the church previously and started to play in a church band, or, what's kind of that story? I'd love to know more.
Well, I joined I became a member of my first church 3.5 years ago. And I joined their worship team 3.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And so I met my wife, I better get this right, 7.5 years ago. And one of the first dates she took me to was church. I hadn't been in church forever. And the first thing I saw was the worship band on stage playing contemporary music. I thought, what is this? I thought we were going to church. And so that kind of started the wheels turning in my head a little bit. And that got me going back to church, and it helped me find my faith. And I dove in with both feet, and then I felt that calling, and God has done amazing things in my life in the last 2.5 years. It's been crazy. It's everything I tried to do when I was 20, but not having to play 4 hours a night.
That's incredible. And I know, church has changed a lot since you were a young man, and you have a lot more of these churches that are playing contemporary worship music. I did a little bit of prison time, and I was actually a member and very blessed to be a member of the Full Gospel worship band there and a part of the team. And it gave me something that, first of all, I needed the time to get right, to get myself right, to let some addictions go, and to want to be better. And given the opportunity to join the worship team, to be part of a community with the church, and it really changed my life. Being baptized in the prison, and by choice, not by your parents just doing it because that's what you do, right? I think that's a different path, right? I know a lot of, Catholics christenings and baptisms happen very early before you ever have a chance to have a relationship with God. And not that we're all not children of God from birth, but for me, it was more personal, and I needed that personal relationship. Nobody was going to tell me to do it. And it sounds like you much in the same that, I'm sure a beautiful woman bringing you there on a first date coaxes a man in some way. But I'm very happy that you found your faith and found music and a purpose in playing for God. That's very cool.
Yes, I was like that too. I was baptized as an infant, and I didn't even know who I was at that point. And I got rebaptized 3 years ago because now I know what it means, and I know what it meant to me, and and the Bible says to be baptized in God. So I did that, and my whole life has changed, and I am playing a lot. I don't have to play those 4 hours, 5 days a row. I would. It would take a toll, but I would do it. But it's a whole different scene in the Christian industry as opposed to playing bars and things like that. So.
Well, and everyone is there to worship and praise, and everyone's singing along a lot of times to these songs. And it's such a different feeling. And especially for guys like us that have spent a lot of time. I started playing in bars when I was like 13, 14 years old, right? That was all I ever had. And then you're kind of chasing, you're chasing that feeling of performing to a full bar, but someone in a bar is not there necessarily to see you and to share in that moment and to share their pain and their joy with you. It's not the space. And at church, you get that, and it changes it for sure. And for me, being in the prison where all of us were, doing our time and in a place where we were all trying to be better, that it was a very grateful time. Not a large, church. There was other groups that were much larger, but I was very grateful for the group that I had. So, I definitely commend you for finding that and finding an outlet for your talents. These are God-given talents, and it takes a lot of work, but this desire has been placed inside of you to continue playing music, and it has to come from somewhere.
It's so different. I mean, well, you can relate because you played in bars and you played in bands like that. You're right. You go and you play in the bars, and 90% of them don't even know you're there, and they don't care that you're there. And now when I go and play at coffee shops or churches or wherever at festivals, whatever, I mean, everybody's there to worship God, or praise, or listen, or they are looking for something, or so they are actually paying attention to what you're doing. The hardest transition for me from the secular world to this music scene was I'm writing songs about my life, and I'm pretty much bearing my soul and telling everybody how bad I was. But I'm doing that in hopes to help someone not have to go through some of the things I went through, or, it's so different. They're so emotionally connected songs. So it's very different. I love it. It was tough at first.
Well, and I've always written songs from that place, not that they're, being shared in the worship team. The hardest part for me playing in the worship team was playing in 6/8 time.
Especially back to back to back.
Well, everything I had played up to that point was in 4/4. Right. Maybe I think I wrote one song in 3/4 time, but learning what 6/8 time even was and how to count it, that was one of my early struggles. And I wasn't playing guitar in the band. They had a need for a bass player, and I had played bass some, early in my career. It was actually the first stringed instrument that I had picked up. But, they had more of a need for someone to play bass than someone on guitar. There was 3 guitar players already, and they were very, very good. And, they were, doing more time than me. So I was like, look, I'm not trying to take your job. I'm here for a short time. Right. It was a couple of years, but, some of the people in the prison, they were serving nearly life sentences. Right. And so I wasn't trying to take take their joy. Right. I was trying to contribute. I met one of my best friends, he's still to this day. He was a drummer. He played drums in the band. I played bass. We formed a great relationship. And, I was just talking with him yesterday, and we've been able to take, that relationship, and we got to play out at one of our big amphitheaters locally in South Dakota, in Sioux Falls here. The Levitt was like 4,000 seat, amphitheater, and playing nothing but my original music and some of those songs written in that prison. So I understand what it's like to, to share that darkness, but also to share those darker times with the consciousness of, like, I'm telling you this story, not for you to be bad and to follow my footsteps, but to avoid that path. And, for me, podcasting has become a lot of that, and coming on every day and sharing bits of my story have become a way for me to, one, ensure that I don't go down that same path, that I don't forget where I came from, and like you, to implore others to maybe hit the brakes a little earlier than I ever did. So I definitely commend you for that, and love the songwriting aspect of what you're doing now.
It's very cool. Just being able to do that. I mean, you're right. I'm not writing songs to say, hey, here's how bad you can be, but there are more songs of hope to saying, hey, because a lot of people feel that, they're just too bad to be saved, or there's no way that a God will love me because I do this and this and this. And I mean, that's just not true, and that's really what my music I still play rock music. It's Christian rock music. And I do like secular forms of music. I'm still trying to write a worship song. I haven't done that yet, but it's really to say, hey, I was bad. I was a bad dude, but God saved me, and God changed my life, and He's got me on a path that I tried so hard to do on my own when I was young and just failed over and over and over again. And He's got me on that path now. It's crazy.
And music keeps you there, right? Instead of being the reason that maybe you fall off and head down a darker route, it is now the thing that keeps you going back to church. And because it would be very easy to stop, right? I'm sure now wife wouldn't let you, but you wouldn't. Now you have a reason to be inspired to go to church, right? Which I think for people that live inspired lives, we sometimes lack in the routine of things. Like we have to be in that moment and feel that not necessarily that we're like, all of the show, right? We're not the reason people are coming there on Sunday, but you're part of the reason that maybe keeps them coming back every week themselves. And I think there's a power to that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, for sure.
So outside of the church, you're still playing, and you're playing, coffee shops and festivals and all things like that. Do you stay fairly busy playing besides on Sundays?
I did last summer. We probably played 40 gigs. I probably played 30, 40 gigs this year. I played in little coffee shops for 10 people, and I opened for Danny Goki for 2,000. So it's, and everybody says, what was that like? What was it like playing for 2,000 people? It was cool. I said, but what was really cool was the people I got to talk to after the show that said, your music really touched me, or your testimony hit home, or that was me, and I'm here now, or I was thinking about taking my life. And just a few weeks ago, I had somebody talk to me about that. It was unbelievable. But that's, everybody talks about you're playing in front of all these people, but that's not what it's about. It's about those people coming up afterwards saying, hey, you touched me in a way that I didn't even know, I am good enough. I'm not as bad as I thought I was, and I am savable. So cool.
That human connection, and obviously a lot of talk about AI and those things, and it will never have that. It will never know that. And to have it be your own music, and having someone like, oh my God, I love that song that somebody else wrote and you performed it so well, is one feeling, but having someone connect with your own story. And I think that's probably why I've fallen in love with podcasting, and regardless of who it goes out to in the world, and how many people are listening after the fact, it's usually my life that has changed during the conversation, because I'm able to take something from your story and you from mine. And if there was one life changed by the conversation, then it was successful. So I've been very blessed to never measure our our impact on the world through our podcast by the numbers, because ultimately nobody's listening until they are. And then it seems in this world that once they start listening, it's tens of thousands at a time, and you kind of catch fire or go viral, as the kids say. And it goes from that. And at this point, we have over 400 interviews that we've done, 1,000 uploads on YouTube. Like, when we have that moment of discovery to the world and we become the overnight sensation, right? There will be, plenty of people for them to be introduced to through our show, and so many different walks of life. But your story is not unique to you either. I hear it a lot on this show, and maybe not everyone is playing in the worship team now and it is church every Sunday, but that music and God, which I think are inextricably connected, right? That they save people every single day, and it has saved so many of us artists firstly, and so many people that are music lovers and deserving of being saved on the other side of the instrument and of the stage. So really, really great story, Howard. So writing a little bit, are you releasing any of this music out to the world as well?
I've got 2 EPs out. One just finished coming out in October. I'm going back in the studio. I record down in Nashville. I'm going back in the studio in January to work. We're going to do some pre-production for a week with a guy named Billy Smiley, and then I'll go back in April and cut another EP, maybe an album. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I don't know how much money I can raise.
Right. And the funding is always a barrier. And, we kind of brushed over your past success, if you want to call it that, a record deal a long time ago. I'd love to know, just because, not a lot of our guests have been signed to that thing. What was that experience like? And how do you kind of contrast that with, producing it on your own? Obviously the record company, maybe, providing an advance to pay for the recording is maybe the biggest thing, but did it change the process of the recording at all?
I mean, maybe they had a little more input on the recording than I didn't have total say over everything, and this way I do. I can, and what I have found, and when I go into Nashville, I bring in Nashville musicians, and I have to be in the room with the musicians, because that's when things happen. A lot of people just, they'll have the Nashville musicians record their stuff, send it to them, they'll lay some vocals down, send it back. I don't like to do it that way. I like to be in the room with the artist, because, man, so much magic has happened on these 2 EPs just sitting in that room for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. It's a whole different process. I've got full input. I can change anything I want. I can say, oh, let's add a bridge here, or let's take the bridge out, or, man, you're just killing on guitar. We're gonna add a guitar solo in here. So I think it's more of I have more total control over it than when I had a label back then. Record labels today aren't anything. I mean, the big ones are like Sony and Warner, but there are 10 million record labels out there, and some are just distribution groups, some are collective groups that do some collective recording, and I've got a couple of those too. But record labels are totally different than they used to be.
And I think, I mean, it's pretty much a far off dream to get signed anymore. If you don't have 1 million followers on your socials and a bunch of streams already, they're not even sniffing around. But I think what most people really need are like more producer, right? Like more somebody that can help you achieve that sound that maybe you have in your head, that might know some players, and to make those connections. It's not necessarily the record label. The record label kind of had the producers under their wings and under, under their control. And that's what made these great records. And what I'm starting to hear from, just being more in the industry now. I've only been doing this for a little under 2 years. I grew up in rural South Dakota. I live in even more rural South Dakota now than where I grew up. So obviously there's not a lot of those people around, right? There's just not a lot there. So it's very interesting to see where things go and how it all works behind the scenes, and really, building up maybe a roster of producers is almost more akin to what is needed now. People who really just want to produce great music and to help artists in that way. And I think that they actually hold more power than they could have in the past. And I don't know if they know that yet. Maybe some of them, and probably most of them aren't very good salesmen of their own services in the first place, because of the generational now, the way things were done. But things are changing, and maybe it's something that's up to me to kind of bring those pieces together, because I know a lot of artists at this point that some of them got some great songs, and they could a lot of them could be hits if finessed the right way, and maybe, re-recorded with a little more polish, and they could be heard on the big radio stations. But the world's changing right now. I don't know how many of these big radio stations and things survive the next decade.
You're right. Yeah, you're right on the money with the producer. You got to have, I think the producer is the most important thing in the whole deal. Because you can have bad producers too that can ruin a song. The first 2 EPs I did with Nashville Christian songwriters, Brian Urich was my producer, and phenomenal. He's phenomenal. I'm pulling more towards my rock, my rock in my bones. And that's kind of why I'm trying this one with Billy Smiley, just to try something different. He's an old rock guy, and I think he's going to pull some great stuff, but he's worked with a lot of people, and you got to find a great producer. You just have to. I know a lot of people record music in their basement and they produce themselves, or they hire a producer for $15 an hour, and you're going to get what you pay for. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes people in their basements are really good too. So you just never know. But yeah,
they're all a lot better than me, Howard. I got all the equipment, but I can't figure out how to hit record and to capture anything that sounds decent. And it's partly because I'm not going to invest the time in it, right? Like I'm very conscious of where I spend my time. And when I see a learning curve, when I could just I can just go hire my buddy. I can pay my buddy $75 a song. He does really good work. He gives me a hell of a deal, right? And he'll play all the instruments for the same thing, right? Where you're like, yeah, that's way better than me trying to spend 400 hours to learn how to make it sound half as good as what you're doing. And, like you said, you get what you pay for out there in the world, regardless of what it is. And a producer is no different. So, Howard, where can everybody find your music?
At Howard Gripp Music, everywhere. On Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all of them. My website's howardgrippmusic.com.
Awesome. Well, Howard, thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today. Look forward. I mean, you never know when I'm going to be in Nashville anymore. I was there for the Josie Music Awards recently and absolutely fell in love with the city. And I never really even made it out of Opryland. I did Broadway a couple of times, but I never even made it to Music Row. So I got a lot more touring around Nashville to do, and I will be back there in 2026. So you never know when we'll see you out on the road. I'll be following you on all the social medias as well. And congratulations to you. I'm glad that you found your faith and you found your purpose again in music with the worship team and creating this new brand of music. So thank you for being here, and thanks for being part of the scene.
Yep, thanks, Bubba. Appreciate it.